If you've been feeling unusually heavy lately, if emotions are surfacing from nowhere, if life seems harder even though you've done so much healing, there's something you need to hear, because what if the thing you think is going wrong is actually the sign that something deeper is finally coming alive? Stay with me. This may explain more than you realize. There are seasons on the awakening path that nobody talks about. Not the bliss, not the synchronicities, not the moments of transcendence. I'm talking about the strange in-between. The season where your old identity is dissolving, but the new one hasn't fully emerged, where life feels heavier than expected, where grief rises without permission, where your nervous system seems to be speaking a language your mind doesn't understand. Many people interpret these experiences as signs that they've lost their way. But symbolically, emotionally, and spiritually, they can represent something very different. Let's explore what may actually be happening. The first sign is a strange heaviness, not necessarily sadness, not necessarily depression, just a feeling of weight, as though you're carrying something invisible. Many people experience this when old emotional material begins rising from deeper layers of the psyche. Energetically, it can feel like pressure. Psychologically, it may be the surfacing of unfinished experiences. Spiritually, many interpret this as old identities loosening their grip. The weight isn't always about what's being added. Sometimes it's about what's preparing to leave. The second sign is that old wounds suddenly return. You thought you had healed them. You thought you had moved on, and then a memory appears. A grief appears, a fear appears, almost as if life is taking you backward, but awakening rarely moves in straight lines. It moves in spirals. Each return often brings a deeper layer into awareness, not because you're failing, because you're finally strong enough to meet what previously remained hidden. The third sign is a growing inability to pretend. Masks become uncomfortable. Roles become exhausting. The version of yourself that knew how to please everyone starts feeling heavy to carry. Conversations feel different. Relationships shift. The performance begins to crack. And while that can feel unsettling, it may actually be a form of liberation, because something authentic is trying to breathe beneath the costume. The fourth sign is emotional intensity. Small moments touch you more deeply. A song, a sunset, a memory, the sight of your child sleeping, the sound of rain against a window. It's as if the walls around your heart are becoming thinner. Many people mistake this sensitivity for weakness. Yet symbolically, it often represents an opening, a return to direct experience, a return to feeling life rather than managing it. The fifth sign is a strange longing you cannot explain. You achieve things, you stay busy, you check the boxes, and still something inside whispers, there must be more, not more possessions, not more accomplishments, more truth, more depth, more reality. This longing isn't necessarily asking you to become someone else. It may be inviting you to become more fully yourself. The sixth sign is the collapse of certainty. Things you once believed without question begin to feel unstable. Old narratives stop making sense. Old goals lose their shine. This can feel frightening. Humans naturally seek solid ground. But awakening often begins where certainty ends, because when the known dissolves, space is created for direct experience, for discovery, for wonder, for truth beyond inherited assumptions. And the seventh sign is perhaps the most misunderstood of all. You begin finding beauty in places you never expected, not because life becomes perfect, because your relationship to life changes. You discover moments of awe inside ordinary experiences. You find gratitude while facing uncertainty. You find tenderness in the middle of grief. You find presence inside challenge. And this is where something extraordinary begins to reveal itself. Because awakening is not always about escaping difficulty. Sometimes awakening is learning how to remain open in the presence of difficulty. Sometimes awakening is remembering who you are while life is asking everything of you. The old self survives through control. The awakening self learns trust. The old self survives through resistance. The awakening self learns openness. The old self asks, how do I make this stop? The awakening self asks, what is this here to show me? And that changes everything. The deeper truth is this: you may not be breaking down. You may be shedding emotional survival strategies that once protected you, patterns that helped you endure, identities that helped you belong, masks that helped you survive. And while their departure can feel uncomfortable, their departure creates space. Space for authenticity, space for freedom, space for the quiet joy of simply being alive, not happiness as an emotion. Something deeper, the simple wonder of existence itself. So if you're in a difficult season, if you feel like you're in the belly of the whale, if emotions are moving through you like weather systems, take a breath. You do not have to have everything figured out. You do not have to rush the process. You do not have to become someone else. You are allowed to meet this moment exactly as it is. And perhaps that willingness, that openness, that courageous softness is the awakening itself. If this message found you at exactly the right time, let me know in the comments by writing, I am opening. Subscribe for more conversations about awakening, healing, and embodied transformation. And share this with someone who needs to hear that what they're experiencing may hold more meaning than they realize. Until next time, may you remember the truth beneath the noise. May you trust what is unfolding. And may you discover the quiet joy that has been waiting underneath it all.